Hey guys, what's going on? It's Russell. Today I'm going to do a different video. It's not really about trading, although it is in a weird roundabout way. So, probably a month ago I posted about this book, Think and Grow Rich, in the Facebook group, and I'll leave a link in the description to join the Facebook group here. So the 27th of November, so nearly a month ago. And it was interesting to see people's responses, and some people had heard of the book, and some people were huge fans of the book, and some had never heard of it at all. So I thought, since this book changed my life so much, I would do a review about it. So I'm currently working on a blog post about it. This is the post here. I'll leave a link in the description to the review of it here, in the description as well. But basically, I just wanted to say a few things about it and kind of give my overall review of the book and the experiences that I've had over the last few years from studying the book. So for you guys that don't know me, I started off as a physicist. I was a PhD in physics. I did that in Scotland before I moved over to the US. And over the course of the next few years, I found myself kind of losing my sort of passion for physics in general. So one particular memory that sticks out was when I was living in Seattle, Washington, and I was just exhausted. I wasn't passionate about what I was doing anymore. I was doing studies on spin qubits for quantum computers and things, but the work I was doing was so labor intensive, and in the grand scheme of things, I really didn't feel like I was making any sort of impact in the world, despite the fact that we were publishing papers and going to conferences and presenting these results. I still wasn't feeling very satisfied, and I found myself falling into like a really deep depression and just feeling like there had to be more to life than what I was currently doing. And I can't remember the exact day or the exact moment that I picked up Think and Grow Rich, but we must have ordered a copy from Amazon, and I started to read it. And after reading it a few times and studying it, I'd look at it on the bus every day to work, just studying every part of the book. What I found is over the next few years, my life completely changed from being utterly miserable, working as a physicist, to starting my own companies, to attaining financial freedom in my early 30s, and just really enjoying life much, much more than I had previously. So I'm a huge advocate of the book. It changed my life, and I know it's changed the life of millions and millions of other people. This is the listing on Amazon where you can go and get it. I'll leave a link in the description below. But you can see that this book is extraordinary. It's had 57,000 ratings, and it's 4.5 or 4.7 out of 5. That in itself should tell you something, right? This book has stood the test of time. It was written in 1937 by Napoleon Hill, and the story goes, it's kind of interesting. So if I go over to my review here, I started to write a little bit about what this book is about and who Napoleon Hill is. So the thing that people have to realize here is that Think and Grow Rich is the playbook that many, many, many millionaires and billionaires have used over the course of the last 100 years to really achieve their goals and to build a rich life for themselves. And by rich life, I don't just mean money, I mean in health and relationships and everything, all overall encompassing a rich, rich life. So the interesting thing was, it was written at the end of the Great Depression, and a lot of people attribute the optimism and hope and achievement that came out of the Great Depression to Napoleon Hill and to this book. So one thing I came across recently that I really encourage you to check out is the Think and Grow Rich, the movie. So sometimes reading a book can be kind of dry. It's an old book as well, so it's not the easiest reading. Sometimes it's easier just to listen to a movie like in the background, or to watch it. And I came across this Think and Grow Rich movie. It's called Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. You can go and find it on this page. So let me just show you what it is. It's right here. It's basically, it takes some of the best examples of the principles that Think and Grow Rich teaches, and then it sort of tells it in a more story format by people like modern entrepreneurs. So part of the issue with Think and Grow Rich is it was written 100 years ago, right? So it is super interesting to find people, modern entrepreneurs, that are swearing by this book as well. So let me just show you, if we go into the page here. So you can see the people involved in this movie and that are giving quotes are some of these people. Barbara from Shark Tank, right? Bob Proctor, Darren Hardy. Like all these successful entrepreneurs, Grant Cardone, super well-known guy, all attribute their success in some part at least to Think and Grow Rich. And these are just like a small sample of the people that talked in this documentary or movie. So I think one thing I found in one of the inner circles that I'm part of, when you join, they don't ask you, have you read Think and Grow Rich? They just assume you have, and they ask, when did you first read Think and Grow Rich, and what did you learn from it? That's how important this book is if you're looking to live your best life, in my opinion. So yeah, so go and check out the movie. It's awesome. It's probably better than the book, just because it's more entertaining. I tend to listen to the soundtrack of the book on my computer quite a lot. So anyway, let's get into the book a little bit more. It's one of those things that I can't spend the next 3 hours telling you everything in the book. So I'm going to try and give you like an overview of the book and like kind of cover a few of the things that I find interesting in it. So basically the story goes that Napoleon Hill basically was a reporter, and this is him here. And when he was 26, he got assigned to go and interview Andrew Carnegie, who was one of the wealthiest people ever to live, right? You guys that don't know him, you should Google and look him up. He's a steel magnate, basically revolutionized the US. The interesting thing was he actually came from a small town in Scotland, from very close to where I lived, a town called Dunfermline, actually the town that my dad grew up in. And this guy came to the States and he was completely broke. Like, Scottish people are not known for having much money, that's where I start. And he turned himself into one of the wealthiest people ever to live, which is absolutely amazing. So Napoleon had the real privilege at just 26-year-old to go and interview Andrew Carnegie. But Carnegie, being the person that he was, he basically said to Napoleon Hill, he just goes like, look, if you devote the next 20 years of your life to learn about the secrets of huge success, then that's how you'll be able to achieve success yourself. I'm not just going to tell you that this is what you need to do to be successful. Go and interview these 500 different successful people, and they'll tell you. Then write it up. And that's where Think and Grow Rich came from. He actually did do that. And he went and he looked at people and he talked to people like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Charles Schwab, Marconi, literally 500 different people who've all achieved remarkable success in their life. So that took about 25 years. He started this in 1908, I think, and finished in like 1937 or something. It's ridiculous. The crazy thing is, you can buy this book, Think and Grow Rich, and you can get all of this knowledge, all the things that this guy Napoleon Hill learned from some of the wealthiest, most amazing achievers in history, all for $10. Like, how amazing is that? It's just ridiculous. So definitely go and buy this book. Given the fact that it's created more millionaires than any other work, that alone should be enough to say, like, let's go, go and get it. So what I want to do is just cover some of the main themes here, and then some of the neuroscience that I found particularly interesting. Let's have a look. So here are the chapters in Think and Grow Rich. So some of them are weird, and I think my initial impression of the book was it's kind of woo-woo at times, but I'll get into that a little bit in a few minutes once we go through the chapters. So the overall arching theme of this book are that thoughts are things, and that you really have to have control over what you think, because what you think becomes what you are and what you get in life. So what you really need, according to Napoleon Hill, is a burning desire. So you don't just want something, you have to be obsessed with it. You have to have so much obsession that you must have that thing. That's the desire. But then you've also got to have this intangible quality, faith basically. So the idea that you believe that you can get something. If you don't believe it, you won't get it. And that's one of the overriding themes of this whole book, is you've got to believe. Because if you don't believe, you won't take chances. You won't start because the task seems so overwhelming. Auto-suggestion is talked a lot about in one of the chapters. Specialized knowledge. This is something that's relevant to people that are basically saying that buying courses, for example, are a waste of time. The book makes a good case that specialized applied knowledge is far, far more valuable than, say, something like a school education, because that's general and it's not specific, it's not actually very useful. And the book does a great job illustrating some of those points by giving stories of people that really didn't have much of an education, or that by educational standards would be considered inferior. One great story is the story of Henry Ford suing one of the newspapers for saying that he's an ignorant man. And it goes on to show that, like, while he may not have all the general knowledge in the world, he has such a specialized knowledge in one thing, making engines and cars, that he became the best in the world at it. So acquiring specialised knowledge is something that I applied myself after reading the book. I did lots of different courses, and I continue to do courses and learn specific skills and things, and it's really, really helped me a lot. So getting out of that thinking of it being an academic general school knowledge, like where you just learn what you learn in school and that's somehow going to make your life full of richness and success, really is something that revolutionised the way that I think, at least. So thinking big, imagination, there's a whole chapter on that. Organised planning, so this is where it all kind of pulls it together. So you can't just imagine yourself winning at everything. You have to come up with an organised plan and obsess over that plan and really reinforce it into your brain. Then you have to take massive decision and bold action. Whole chapter on that. There's a whole chapter on persistence. It's a huge concept in the book. And one of the ways they illustrate this is to talk about Thomas Edison, about how many times he tried to get the light bulb working with different filaments and things. And it's 10,000 attempts is the well-known fact that he tried 10,000 times to get the light bulb working before it worked. So chapter 10, power of the mastermind, that's super important. You've got to surround yourself with like-minded people. You've got to basically find the best people that you can that can help you achieve your goals and that you can help achieve their goals as well. So you want to be surrounded with people that are better than you, but also they can get some value from you too. So there's a whole chapter about the power of the mastermind group, which is really fascinating as well. There's a chapter on the mystery of sex transmutation. That's a really weird chapter. I'm not going to go into that. By the way, there's a lot of things in this book that are weird, and a lot of things that are really, really great. And I'm going to cover why that is once I get through this list of chapters. So the subconscious mind, break the inner autopilot, that's a really interesting chapter about how we default back to our baseline until we break it. So there's a lot of talk about the brain and the senses and fear. So the final chapter is the 6 ghosts of fear, really interesting about why we may be paralyzed to do things like we're frightened of poverty and we're frightened of failure and we're frightened of death. So he covers all these things and how to beat those fears and how by beating them you'll actually get further in life. So really fascinating stuff. Alright, so one of the things that always comes up with Think and Grow Rich is that the Law of Attraction was a movie that was spun off from Think and Grow Rich. So everybody always thinks, well, okay, great, you think and think, and then you get rich or successful or whatever you want in life. And of course that's not true. You have to take that action. And the thing is though, that the thinking leads to the action, right? So parts of the brain that are responsible for the thought processes are also responsible for then moving those into action and ideas. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about after this section. So I guess that's what I'm saying here is like people think it's some sort of scam because it has the word think and rich in the title, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It's not a scam. It's all about mindset. And there are a few things though that do seem like a bit weird, right? So one thing that it talks a bit about vibration, and like as a physicist, like I know about vibrations, and I don't believe that vibrations are something, like I don't believe that thoughts are vibrations and all that. To me that's just woo-woo. But what I think is happening here is when this book was written by somebody like Napoleon Hill, then they had no idea about neuroscience. They didn't understand these concepts, like why, when you think a certain way, certain things might happen. So they tended to, at least in the book, chalk it up to this weird, like, almost paranormal force of vibration, or, this weird, like, infinite intelligence thing about how the universe is listening to you and you're manifesting stuff. And that's not quite right in my opinion, and I think most people take that part of the book with a pinch of salt, right? They don't really think there's some infinite intelligence manifesting your stuff as you think. And I think that's where a lot of people get turned off of this book. And that's what I'm basically saying here is that I don't think they understood the brain as well. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit here. One of the biggest principles that Napoleon Hill talks about is developing a burning desire as a starting point of success. So when you think about a burning desire or a definite purpose, it's thinking about like one goal, one thing that's most important to you. So for me, back 10 years ago, it was I wanted freedom. Like I wanted financial freedom, I wanted to be free to do what I wanted. I wanted to take vacations when I wanted. I wanted to be able to live where I wanted. I didn't want that to be dictated by somebody else. So there's this quote that says, "The starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desire brings weak results. Just as small fire makes a small amount of heat." Napoleon Hill. Now, where the neuroscience comes in here is quite interesting. So you have a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. It's right at the front of the brain here. And it does a lot of stuff. It's a very interesting part of the brain. But what they've found is that having a definite purpose, so really focusing on something like a goal, stimulates the prefrontal cortex, which is really interesting because when the prefrontal cortex is stimulated, it basically ups the ability for that part of the brain to do other tasks, things like creativity, which is crucial, right? If you're trying to do some really cool project or start a business, you need creativity. So by having that definitive purpose, it's like a feedback loop that goes, the prefrontal cortex activates, and you get better brain function, you get better impulse control, you get more creativity, you become more, perseverance is improved, your problem solving, your reasoning, your comprehension, all of these things improve just because you activated the prefrontal cortex with that initial thought. So in my head, that is at the heart of a lot of Think and Grow Rich's principles. It's not some weird like vibration stuff. It's neuroscience. And I'm not a neuroscientist, but I've done some reading and research on this stuff, and this is the way that I choose to interpret like what is happening when you apply the Think and Grow Rich principles to your own life. So basically, having these strong internal thoughts of what you want to achieve stimulates this brain, and it helps you perform the crucial tasks. So one thing that was also quite interesting is mindfulness or meditation can also increase the prefrontal cortex activity, which is very interesting. So in my journey to go through some of this book over the years, the reticular activating system in the brain has also come up time and time again. So this is interesting because you can think about it like a part of the brain. So there's a picture of it here. It's right here in the brain. So this is a really interesting part of the brain that basically filters out things that are not relevant to you and keeps the things that are. Because your mind is just going to get burned out, right? If every single piece of information gets into your brain and you have to think about it, you're going to go completely crazy or burn out, right? Just completely nuts. So it's a filter that basically anything that goes on in your life, it gets filtered through. So the interesting thing about that is how it applies to Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Is imagine if you were to buy a new car, right? You suddenly start to see that car everywhere. It's not that there are like lots of those new cars appearing, it's just that it's relevant to your life, you're focused on it, so you start to see them everywhere. And that's because of your RAS, or Reticular Activation System. So if you think about it in terms of Napoleon's messages, which is, you've got to have that one burning goal, that desire, and that one focus. Well, think about it like the same way as the car. If you're thinking about a business idea or a business opportunity, you're going to be much more open to it. Your brain is going to see the opportunities. So a lot of people would call that luck, right? That but it's not. It's the fact that you're so focused on something that anything that's even slightly relevant gets taken in, absorbed, and utilized in a way that actually benefits you and keeps you going forward. So you can start to see how things like positive affirmations, autosuggestion, and goal setting can all help activate this part of the brain, which then helps you to achieve your goals. So you can see how this isn't woo-woo. A lot of this could easily be described as neuroscience. And this isn't just stuff that, made up. Like visualization is something that they've studied, in particular with free throws in basketball. So there's a study, you can go and check it out, where basically they found that if you visualize your success of each throw, every motion of that free throw in basketball, then you will actually perform a lot better because the brain doesn't differentiate between the actual thing, actually practicing and practicing it in your mind. So when Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich goes on about visualization and all this stuff, it's based in science. So it's pretty interesting. So I hope I've given a rough overview of the book. Probably rambled on a bit more about neuroscience than I'm probably really qualified to do. But these are just kind of my thoughts about Think and Grow Rich and how it's helped my life and how it's helped a lot of other people's lives over the last 100 years for some people. And I hope that's helpful. I would definitely go and check out this movie, and I'll leave a link in the description to go and check it out. It's all about the success people have had, and some really, really interesting, fascinating stories about how people have changed their lives around. So, anyway, I hope that's useful, and I think if there's one book that you're to buy for Christmas for somebody or for yourself, then I would highly suggest, if you haven't done it already, go read Think and Grow Rich. Alright guys, catch you in the next video. Cheers.